Hello and welcome to week 14. Holy moly, it's crazy to think that we're already in the 14th week of classes this summer session. So you only have a few more weeks left worth of course material. I first want to say thank you to those folks who've been helping me in the garden this week. It's been a lot of fun to meet some of you face to face to talk about the things that are going on in your personal life, but also talk about the things that you've enjoyed in this class and to actually just, like I said, meet you face to face. So a big thank you to those of you who've been out to help me in the garden. It's been fun, and I'm glad that you've been able to take home some produce with you. Hopefully you're making some really yummy stuff with it. So like I said, we are in week 14, which is absolutely crazy. We actually only, after this week, have one more week worth of content. So you'll have one more chapter within Michael Pollan's Omnivore's Dilemma book. And then we jump into finals week, which is really the focus of those recipes that you'll be putting together. So you want to make sure that you watch that video from me when that comes out, because that does walk you through step by step some really important instructions to submit that signature assignment and complete those recipe cards. So this week you'll be reading chapter 18. Chapter 18 really focuses on gathering fungi, however you choose to say that, mushrooms. So it's a really fun chapter. Pollan goes out and does some mushroom hunting with a couple of people. So you'll want to read that chapter and then respond to those discussion board questions that are being posed for the week. And then remember, you also need to respond to your peers, and all of those are due by the deadline. So make sure that you complete that task. Your other component this week is an article that you'll be reading. So it is from the Edible East Bay magazine, and the article title is called The Urban Forager. And this is, Anthony is referenced in Pollan's book. He actually goes mushroom hunting with Pollan in part 2 of this chapter. So you'll get to know him a little better. So this is a great article that he wrote and talks about a specific kind of mushroom. I will not leak any of those details because that is a question in your test for the week, but talks about the going rate of those mushrooms, finding them, how to prepare them. So it's really kind of a fun article and a great tie-in to somebody who we learn about in the book and then see some of the materials that they've published. So this week, your QUID outcome, in order to accomplish this certain objective, this objective is developing goal-making strategies. There's a lot of different research out there that talks about goal-making strategies, and a lot of people tend to gravitate towards SMART goals, and SMART goals is an acronym, and there's a lot of research out there about whether or not SMART goals are the way to go, they aren't the way to go. I don't feel strongly one way or another, which is why I'm not going to introduce you to SMART goals in this particular module. What I really want to focus on when we're talking about goal-making strategies is really just honing in on this idea that you can do anything. You can really do anything that you set your mind to. So I have a little excerpt from Michael Jordan's book called I Can't Accept Not Trying, which I think gives a really good introduction to this idea of you can do anything. The only thing that might be preventing you is trying, or might be your mindset, which will go into a TED Talk that you'll also be watching for the week. The other thing for me, the greatest takeaway that I have from college was this idea of grit, and was this idea that I really needed to take the steps in order to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish within my college career. So I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory here. So I grew up on a farm in rural Idaho. There was nobody in my family who'd ever been to college. So it was very much an unknown for us. When I got into high school, talking about college was not something we talked about at the dinner table. It wasn't even something that my parents honestly thought I could even attain. And my parents were divorced, so kind of a classic family scenario. We lived paycheck to paycheck, and it was a hard life for my family and I. And when the time came for me to make that decision of will I go to college, for me, there was no question in my mind that I was going to go because I knew that I wanted something better for myself. And so this idea of what I really think, this idea of grit and this idea of I will be the first to go to college, even if my parents don't support me. I actually drove myself up to the University of Idaho. So my parents kept saying, like, you're not going to make it. This is not the right decision for you. Like, we really want you to stay here on the farm. We want you to work on the farm. That's kind of what your destiny is. And I knew that I did not want that life for myself. And so, not that it's a bad life. I just knew that if I wanted to have a family, living paycheck to paycheck was not going to be for me, that I needed to go to college, that I needed to get an education. And so this idea of grit, my first year in college was painful. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to be a good college student. I struggled really hard. But ultimately knowing, like, these are the things that I have to do in order to get through this time period in my life and move on to my sophomore year in college, which then moved on to my junior year, which moved on to my senior year. When I went to the Peace Corps, this idea of grit, like, this is hard, this is going to be hard, but deep within me, I have this mindset and this passion, and this is a goal that I want to achieve. So shifting that mindset from I can't do it or I shouldn't do it because of all of these things that have led up to this point to really, these things have happened in my life, but I can do this. And so I really want you to just focus on that. And as we reach the end of the semester, remind yourself that you had some grit to get through this semester. The summer session is hard. Give yourself a pat on the back. Like, we're almost there. You will complete this course. And that's an accomplishment. That's something that you should feel proud of. And that is grit. That's, for some of you, it may feel like jumping through the hoops in order to check that box to move on to the next step. For some of you, while you're jumping through those hoops, you're gleaning information, you're learning things, you're shifting your mindset, you're shifting your views. And that's also super beneficial. But at the end of the day, you're still checking that box so that you can move on and take that next step. So that's really what I want you to think about when you're thinking about these goal-making strategies. It's not to sit down and write some SMART goals and say, you know, is this measurable? Can I attain it? What is the timeline in which I'm going to do it? Like, to me, that's important, but really it is this mindset within you that you can do anything. Really, at the end of the day, what might be preventing you from doing that is just trying. So there's 3 things that I've embedded within this to really get you thinking about that. So the first is that excerpt from Michael Jordan's book. The second is this grit animated message from Angela Duckworth. She is an established psychologist who does a lot of research on this idea of grit and really perseverance and getting through things. And then this last gal, she talks about this idea of programming your mind and focusing less on the problems that you may have and the whys that you can't do it, and really reshifting and reprogramming your mind to think about how you can succeed in that specific scenario. So you'll watch those things, and then you've got some prompts, some questions that you want to make sure that you're addressing that relate to that material. So that is your quit outcome for the week. I hope that you leave that outcome feeling like, you know what? I did this, and then I've got this moving forward. And whatever that goal is that I want to achieve, or whatever that next step is for me, I know that within me, if I shift my mindset, I can accomplish it. The other thing that I just want to draw your attention to is on July 20th, which is this Friday, your course evaluation will open for this class. And that's really helpful for me. So every single semester, I take my course evaluations from my students, and I usually make some kind of change within the course based on your feedback. So it's really helpful for me to see the things that you're finding beneficial in the course, but also some areas of improvement that you're like, well, it'd be really nice if we did this instead of this, or I didn't find her video announcements helpful, so she should probably stop doing that, or the feedback that she provided me in the grade center when she graded my assignments wasn't really helpful. That helps me calibrate what's helpful for you as a student, because I certainly don't want to waste your time, but I obviously also don't want to waste my time in that process. So talk about the things that were helpful, but also talk about the things that you're like, yeah, that wasn't helpful or didn't really make a lot of sense to me. So those course evaluations, you'll find them over here on your left-hand toolbar. Once they go live, you'll just click that and it's going to redirect you out to a end of semester survey. Those course evaluations are not required for the class. It is extra credit, which is why this does say course evaluation extra credit. But the extra credit is based on a sliding scale of completion by your peers. So if 60% of your classmates complete it, of those 60% who completed it, they will each get 6 extra credit points. If we have 100% completion rate, then every student in the class will get 10 extra credit points. So there is a little bit of pressure to make sure that everybody completes it, but that really is because I do place a lot of value on your feedback and making sure that moving forward, I can make this class as best as I can for the next students who are going to take it. So know that will open this Friday, the 20th, and then it won't close until next Saturday, the 28th. So you have about a week to complete that, and I'll be reminding you along the way that that will be coming up. So the last little thing that I just want to say is we'll be going into week 15, which is the last chapter that you'll be reading in the Omnivore's Dilemma book, and it is the perfect meal. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're heading into. So be ready to prepare something for you and your family or your friends or whomever it may be that encapsulates everything that we've learned this semester. I wish I could join each of you for that perfect meal. And then week 16, which is the last week of the semester, which is technically just next Wednesday through Saturday, is going to be your submission of your final recipe cards. So go back and look at that wiki if you forgot what recipes you signed up for. And then I will be posting in week 15 and week 16, so they'll be there in both modules for your reference, some examples of some recipe cards. So you'll be using PowerPoint as your tool that you're going to use to create those recipes, and you'll be doing 3 slides. So 3 slides, each slide will have your recipe on it, and then I'll talk about some of the other specific information that I would like to see on that recipe card. So be on the lookout for that in week 15, and then you'll be submitting those next week, the end of next week. So it's crazy because we only have a week and a half left. I can't believe next Saturday will be the last day of this class. So with that, have a fantastic week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please send me an email or reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. Have a fantastic day.